Hi there. I'm Ann Welker, Suffolk County Legislator for the Second District. Welcome to South by SouthFork. I am thrilled to be here today, joined by the Executive Director of the retreat, Kate Carbonara, and Stacy Stancione, the Shelter Director. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here, the both of you. Kate, so this is a position that you took on about how long ago? Is it a year?
It's just a year.
Oh my
Yep, last
goodness.
week was my
Ah,
one year
happy-
anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
That's great. And how did you come to this role?
Yeah, so my background is as a lawyer. I was a public defender in the city. I worked with all different people that were arrested for crimes, and I started to see patterns in the people that I worked with. A lot of the clients I worked with had been survivors themselves when they were children. A lot of them had been trafficked. They were domestic violence survivors, and then they ended up being criminalized. So my practice transitioned, and I started working solely with those people who identified as, we call criminalized survivors, but survivors who have been criminalized. And from that, I just went from there where I really loved working with that group and finding like how can we get more resources, because that is a group that has a lot of vulnerabilities. And so I did that for a long time. I worked at Toro Law School for a bit. We opened a center for survivors, and that's actually how I met the retreat. And then I joined just 1 year ago.
Oh, well, congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Thank
That's
you.
very exciting. And you just had an event this past week. So talk
did.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, so this is my first event season at the retreat, which you all know, and anybody who lives out here, it's very busy. But we had our last event of the season, a last in-person event, which was our golf event at Noyak. So beautiful, just the general manager, everybody was so nice and kind, and it was a really wonderful day. And we recognized Ray Harden from BK Builders. So that was great, because Ray and BK Builders, they helped build part of our shelter. They've done so much for us over the years, and yeah, so it was a really wonderful day, and we are happy to appreciate Ray, because even you've already met Ray a bunch at the shelter because of all he does for us.
And for people who may not be familiar, can you just talk a little bit about the retreat and maybe about the shelter? And maybe also emphasize that although you are a bit East Hampton based, it's by no means just East Hampton.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you're asking this, because when I joined the retreat, what I knew about it too was, oh, we have a shelter and we're on the East End, but we're so much more in addition to those things that are really important to us. But what we do at the retreat is work with survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual abuse. We have offices in East Hampton, right near the Ross School on Good Friend. We have a shelter, which is on the East End. We also have legal advocacy. We go to court. We go to Central Islip and Riverhead Court. We have advocates that go with clients to get orders of protection. We have a lawyer. We have counselors all over. So we have counselors in Hauppauge, some that actually work in Nassau County now, and then throughout the East End. We have a 24/7 hotline, and we have a program that works with fathers. And I'll let Stacy talk about the shelter, but I think, the important thing I want people to realize is the reason that we have spread out so much is because there's such a need. So we did start in East Hampton. We started with a group of local elected officials and people who were just trying to help mostly women who were escaping abusive relationships. So it's 37 years ago at this point, 38 years ago. And from there, we grew and we had our shelter, and our shelter will always be there. But what we realize is the need is just everywhere. I mean, from when I started, we started working more with trafficking survivors, because it is something that isn't just happening, in movies and in Taken and in different places that we see it sort of dramatized. It's happening here. It's happening in East Hampton and Riverhead and Montauk and Babylon and Nassau. Like it is a reality of what we're dealing with. In fact, they created a court about a year and a half ago for children who have been trafficked, right? And so the fact that they had to create that and there was a need for it really highlights it. But we do have our base on the East End, and I'll have Stacy talk about the shelter, because the shelter is something that we're so proud of. I'm so proud of Stacy, and I will say I was just talking to somebody at the shelter the other day, and they were like, "Man, Stacy's just the best," and it really makes a difference when you have staff that are trauma informed and actually care. So I'm glad you're here.
Beautiful thing. Stacy.
So I guess I came aboard almost a year ago. December will be a year that I'm with the shelter. I came aboard as director, and we are an 18-bed shelter, which is nothing compared to what the need is. We have 18 beds. We help mothers and children. We can also help fathers as well. We do take males as well when the need arises. We help in the needs of case management. We help with financial literacy. We will take people from all different situations, whether it's domestic violence at home from spousal abuse to parental abuse. We take people with elder abuse. We have, in my shelter, I have 7 women and 9 children. Excuse me, I have 7 women and 9 children. We help them get back on their feet. We help them, take those first steps to get away. We help in a trauma-informed way, which means we are very delicate. We help them as they need. We wait for them to come to us. Offer counseling on site. We offer case management on site. With case management, we try and help them get into housing and help them take those next steps to be able to move forward. The problems that we run into is the housing market. And that's the biggest need that we see on the East End. And going across Long Island, we're one of the most expensive places to live, and helping people get on their feet. A lot of our women that we see that come in, they have been in such sheltered lifestyles that they have no job history, they have no financial literacy, they have no credit, they have no bank accounts. So for them to be able to get onto their feet and get a job even, it's so hard to be able to go out there and find a place to live. So we look at things such as transitional housing, which are programs that will help them pay rent for a year or 2 years for them to continue to get back on their feet and then pay their rent and be able to sustain that rent. These are programs that we look into. We have had transitional housing now for a few years. That grant has come to an end the end of this month, and we're waiting to see if that grant's going to be renewed. So that's a huge opportunity that we would look at the federal government for, to see if they're going to renew that grant for us. Without that, a lot of people will lose housing. It gives us that opportunity to house so many people out of the shelter and get them back into step. Supportive housing is another option that people have. It's permanent supportive housing, where people would go and pay 1/3 of their income, and we would help them pay the rest of their rent. So we've recently received a grant called ESHI through the state, to be able to build these supportive housing units. So now we're in the process of looking for an area to build, or take over currently apartments that are out there, renovate them and get people into supportive housing, that we're looking to do over the next 2 years. And we have the opportunity to do that, which is amazing.
That's so exciting. Oh
Yes,
my
So
goodness.
exciting. It's new for us, right? The shelter is not new for us. It's something we've done for a long time. But we're excited about this because although it is a really big undertaking, I mean, think about the housing market, we're trying to get a space. So, we say this to the community because we have such big community support. If there is land, if there is a place, if you want to help us, let us know, because that's how we got our shelter originally.
Really?
The town helped us, and our building, our actual office on Good Friend, it was a donated house that somebody donated, and we flew it over, they flew it over, we didn't fly it over, to that space on Ross School. And so it's something that if people have a space, if there is, right, like, I think an ideal situation for these supportive permanent housing, it's like, think of an old hotel, right? We all know on Long Island, there's these ratty hotels that are closed down. Wouldn't a town love to have that be a beautiful place? Because although we can't tell where our shelter is, and I know you've been to the shelter and other people, it's a beautiful space. You don't know it's there. It's not an eyesore. It's a nice part of the community that you don't even realize. And that's what I feel like we would bring to any place for this. So it's new and it's a little intimidating because we haven't done it before. But when we made this decision with our board, Stacy and I and Julia, all of us, all of our team said, like, this is a need and we're in such a good position to be able to do it, even if it's really hard. Let's try it. So now we have 2 years to get the funding and 2 years to figure out are we gonna rebuild something? Are we gonna build something from scratch? Are we taking over something? So definitely exciting, but like Stacy said, the need is, it's astronomical. I mean, one of the biggest domestic violence organizations on Long Island called the Safe Center closed in March. And that was one of our partners. We would refer people to them, they would refer people to us. They're closed. There's nobody that's taken over yet. And so that left 53 beds on Long Island for people, women, men, and children. All of Long Island, that's what we have for domestic violence and human trafficking survivors. And it's awful. And so we're so proud of having the beds that we have, but that's why Stacey said it's nothing, because we're always having to turn people away because we just don't have enough. So it's really, it's an important issue, and it's something that Stacey sees every single day as people, like, they're doing great in the shelter, they're ready to move on, and then I can't pay $3,000 a month, right? I can't pay $4,000 a month for me and my kid, right? So it's tough.
The need for more shelters is out there. The need for, like Kate said, the Safe Center shut down, which left, 53 beds on all of Long Island between Nassau and Suffolk County. 53 beds is nothing.
It's a crazy number.
Yeah. I mean, 53 beds between women, children, and men gives us nothing. I'd love to see us be able to open another shelter, to be able to have more beds to provide to people. We need that housing afterwards, but we need the shelter to bring people in now. I think this past year, we looked at over 3,500 hotline calls alone that came in. And out of those 3,500 hotline calls, we had only 80-something people in our shelter through the year because we only have 18 beds.
What's the length of stay usually?
So they can stay up to 6 months.
But that's it, because it's a county rule and a state rule. So it's like, even when, there's people and they're doing well and they just need a little bit more time, there's nothing we can do. Which is why that transitional housing that Stacy mentioned is so great, because then at least we're saying, hey, we know that you're on your way, but it's gonna be really hard for you to pay rent alone. So here's $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever we can do from this grant. And that's a grant we've had for years. It's a federal grant, the Transitional Housing Program. Absolutely amazing. It just helps. There's nothing else. It's just a super helpful thing for our clients. And that ends on Monday, the 29th, which I know it might be after this airs, but it's, it's something we really are hoping that we get, because it's not a program that we have, a ton of staff are employed under that. It's just for our clients, which is great, because we can just work with them and say, you're leaving the shelter, here, let's help you with the next step.
Oh, well, sending major good vibes
Thank
to
you.
you guys, for sure. Talk a little bit about the Fatherhood Initiative, because that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I love all of our programs. I think the fatherhood program is really unique. So I love it in a different way. And it kind of goes back to my background of being a public defender. Sometimes people hear that and they're like, wait, you represented criminals? Like, what are you doing now? And I have to say, well, wait, this is a cycle. This isn't something, you're not born getting arrested, right? Like, we're not born in a vacuum. We're born with our history and our experiences and the communities we live in and the money that our parents have or our caregivers. And so the fatherhood program is for fathers. It isn't necessarily for fathers who cause harm. It's for fathers who are struggling, who want to be better. They want to do better, which I think right there is just a good sign. Whenever you see somebody who's like, I don't know what to do, but I want to do better, it's an opportunity. And so for these fathers, we've had this grant for 15 years. Romery is our project director. She's absolutely amazing. And she has created this program where men come in. Some of them are coming out from being incarcerated. Some of them are just, they've never really had a steady job and they want help. Some of them have been domestic violence survivors themselves, and now they're trying to rebuild. And her team is outstanding. They work with each man. They say, what do you need? Okay, we're gonna do an educational program. That's part of it, is just working with them, teaching them these things that I never learned as a parent. No one ever sat me down and said X, Y, and Z, right? Like, you kind of learn it, but I also had all of the things that I was able to figure it out on my own. A lot of people don't. And so they get case management, and this new part of it, which I'm gonna talk about, is really about jobs. So I bring that up because I know a lot of people in the community are like, well, We want people to be productive members of society. Me too, we all do. Like that, the more productive you can be, right, the better things are gonna be for the entire community. And so this program does case management, education, we help them with gift cards. We do, over the holidays, we do something for all of our survivors, giving their kids gifts, and we do it for them too. Because these are kids at the end, these are fathers who have children, right? And some of these fathers, when they were children themselves, they were at the shelter, right? Like they think about like that's the same, right? Like that cycle that we talk about. It's so important when we talk about it that people realize we're not just saying it as like a sound bite. It really is. It's a cycle that some kids see it and then they grow up and then maybe they become victims again, or maybe they do it because they never knew better. And so this program kind of steps in and says like, let's help you. Let's give you other alternatives. And we've had that for 15 years. It's amazing. It's run out of Hauppauge, but we do it in Nassau, Suffolk, it's everywhere, all over. And that is all, that's a federal grant too. And so that is running out this year. And so we've applied and we're really hopeful, we really want to get it. But there's just so much uncertainty, right? And so we're trying to figure out what's our contingency plan. Because to us, to our team, like there isn't a world where we can just stop that. Even if we don't get that money, like we have to keep doing it in some way because it is making a difference. And, you know, I think Stacy has talked to some of the men from there too, like sometimes they need shelter, sometimes we're trying to find them placement. And I think at the retreat in general, what we're very passionate about is just not only addressing the survivor, though we do that in every single way possible, but also looking to their children. So they don't get in the same position as maybe their mom or maybe their father, right? Like, we really feel like let's touch all of this to try to stop it. And we have our big prevention education department, and in the East End, there's a ton of schools that we're in. We work with Southampton Hospital and the doctors and the dentists to train them to see the signs. And that's so important too, because we feel like if we don't teach kids about this at a young age, where are they gonna learn it if they're in a bad situation? So I know we're trying to kind of get into really break the cycle in every way we can, but it's hard because the funding, right? We're a nonprofit. That's the biggest challenge, I think, from this first year of being an executive director is just like, we have so many ideas and I have so many things that we want to do, but like, we have to figure out, well, what's the need right now and what can we do with the limited funds we have?
I love that you're touching on so many different points here. For me, you brought this up before, but sexual trafficking. So that's something that's not a conversation that we hear about, read about, speak about, but it's present. Can you expand a little bit on that? Because that's something that has grown or has become more omnipresent in the retreat or with your work.
Yeah, definitely. I
So
mean,
we get hotlines, a lot on sex trafficking. You'll get the calls. I've had this year alone, since I've been here in the past 9 months, I've had 3 different clients that have been victims of sex trafficking.
at the shelter.
At the shelter. 3 different clients that we have helped get into other places that were specific for sex trafficking. We have hired sex trafficking counselors this year that are specific for sex trafficking. A lot of people don't think that it happens here on Long Island. You know, they're under the impression of not in my backyard. We hear about it on a larger scale, and it's right here. You know, you hear the little articles here and there, you see it in the newspaper, you always think that it's not a big deal, but we hear about it constantly, and it's been such a great need that, like Kate was saying, they've even started now in the courts where Kate can touch more on it, they've started the new court system.
Yeah, it's called the Erin Court, and there's a judge, his name's Judge Camacho. He actually started the Human Trafficking Intervention Court in Queens that I used to work in, so I knew him from there. And he started this court because he started seeing young people come through the juvenile court or the family court that had all of the signs of being a trafficking survivor. And because of his experience in the courts working with survivors, he saw it and he knew it, and he thought, well, what are we doing? Like, what are we just putting this person through the court, or are we stopping and, you know, getting in there to help? So last August, he started the Erin Court. It's named after a young woman who was murdered by her trafficker. and somebody that he knew and worked with. And so this court, although new, we're realizing it's really necessary. And so when I started, I said like, I hope in a year we can be in this court. And within a week, we were in the court. Because we talked to him and he's like, we need trained clinicians. And we have trained clinicians. And we have people on our staff that have long histories of working with trafficking survivors. And so it was exciting in that way to meet these staff and be like, this isn't something we have to wait for a year. Let's just get in there. Like, these are crime victims. We have funding from the state for this. And so our counselors are in court, our court advocates are in there, helping in a different way, like just supporting these young people. A lot of them are in group homes, right? Just because of the dynamics of whatever's going on at home. And our counselors will go there, they'll meet with them. We're also part of this new operation, new group or program in the county called Operation Safe and Lasting Freedom. And so what that is working with the marshals, the sheriff, the police departments. They go out and try to find youth as soon as they go missing. Because we know that vulnerabilities lead to trafficking, just across the board. And I mean sex trafficking and labor trafficking. So vulnerable youth who run away, we know are very susceptible to trafficking. So they go and try to find that person. And then us, EAC, ECLI, we go and work with the families. And then when the child comes home, we work with them. And the idea there is, let's try to get in when we can maybe stop it, or maybe even just be a resource. Because we're seeing trafficking younger and younger. We're seeing it, labor trafficking, and again, like you said, it's everywhere. And there's a lot of it on the East End, right? Because we do see, like I said, vulnerabilities when people work as house cleaners, as landscapers, right? There's certain industries where trafficking, labor trafficking happens more just because it ends up being a lower wage job, right? We see it with a lot of undocumented people as well. And I'm happy that we're doing it, but it's awful that we have to do it. That's something that the Safe Center, that organization I mentioned, did as well. And so for us, we said, well, let's get into Nassau and help with this too. Because it's the education, just letting people know, even just talking about this here and saying, like, this is an issue. You might not always know, right? Sometimes people see something and it doesn't feel right. But even that, you can call us. We can talk about it. We can try to help. And I know the police departments on the East End are definitely getting a lot of training in it. I've met with them. I've met with Southampton, East Hampton, just to say, like, this is an issue. You're probably going to see it, not just in the summer, but all year. And let us know if you need support, because there's a lot that we can do to just come in and give support. Even if someone's not ready to talk about it or to get that trafficker arrested and they're in this in between where they just know what's happening isn't right, we can come in and try to work with them. So it's awful that it's happening, but I'm glad we're doing it. And I'm glad we're talking about it, because I think just telling people this is real. It's not just from the movies.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to, you sent some photos and some slides
Yeah.
in, so maybe if we could just run those, and if you want to refer to them as
Sure.
they come up on the screen, that's great. But the other thing is, what is the 1-800 number? Like, how does somebody find that?
So it's a 631-329. Oh my goodness.
2200.
2200. 631-329-2200. And that goes directly to one of our hotline responders or shelter staff 24/7. And it's bilingual, and we have the language line if there's a language that we don't have there. And our website is allaganstabuse.org. So sometimes people search the retreat, doesn't come up right away, we're working on that. But just to search allaganstabuse.org, you'll see all of our services. And we're very accessible too. So you'll go on, you'll find my email, Stacey's email, whatever people need. And we always say, like, call the hotline first, tell them what's going on. Everything you're saying on there, like, it's okay. You can tell us what's going on and we can then help you. And if we can't, we'll refer you to somebody else.
Wow, that's great. And is there anything special that you wanted to point out here in your slides?
So,
Yeah, go
this
ahead.
actually, this was right before I started, before we both started. So a lot of people aren't here anymore. We have Loretta, who's amazing, who had been with the retreat for a really long time. So the governor, the state gave us $575,000 to help our shelter, to make it better. And so, I didn't know, I'm sure you know it in government, but it takes a long time. And on our end too, like, we're trying to figure out the best way to do it. So we're now in the last stages of this. We had Ray Harden from BK Builders come and talk to us just last week about what we're gonna do. So that's gonna be a game changer, because the shelter is nice, but it needs
Needs some improvement.
It needs some improvements.
It's old. It's old, so
Yeah.
we need some improvements. So we're gonna take some of that and we're gonna get a new kitchen.
Oh,
With 2 stoves.
With 2 stoves, so that we have 2 areas for, because 1 stove for, 6, 7 families to cook on is a lot. So we're gonna get a new kitchen and new floors. We did actually just get a new playground.
Yes, that was
So that was
donated.
donated to us, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna get a new mat area for our playground as well. We're looking into possibly some new office space.
Yeah, just to
Um,
build out a little, and because it is like it's a beautiful place, and I think, my experience being in shelters in the city, it was just different, and then when I came here, I thought, oh wow, this is really nice and it's great, but we should always keep it up because we're lucky to have this space, so that was an amazing grant, and I know Governor Hochul, this issue's really close to her, and she's talked about that, like domestic violence, it was something her mother or family experienced, and so I think the work that we're doing, there's a lot of people in the community that have experienced it in some way or seen it, and they understand the need.
I remember when I came on the tour that a phrase that I heard that I had never heard before was that domestic violence and other things too stretch from dune road to dirt roads. Throughout not only our East End community, but throughout Long Island and our nation and our world as well. Thank you guys so much. We have just a couple, less than a minute. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up or emphasize before it's time for us?
Yeah, I mean, first, thanks for having us. I think anytime we can talk about what we're doing, I think it's great because I know the work we're doing is important. And if people want to volunteer, if they want to work with us, if they want to donate, if they think of like a great hotel that's breaking down and you want to buy it for us, so I'm just kidding, but call us because we're very creative and we will figure things out and we work with the community. We really depend on the community and we have for a long time. So please reach out to us and thank you for having us. Thanks for the work that you're doing in our community.
Of course. It's a pleasure to have both of you. Thank you so much for all of the great work that you're doing.
Thank you.